So how are you, Stephen Edwards? Thank you for coming on the show. Bread man, how are you?
I'm
Congrats.
good, man. I'm good. Just getting back from Minnesota last night.
I know. Congrats on the win with
Congrats,
Tyrone.
man. That was
Thanks, man.
awesome.
Tough fight, man. We had to take that joint on 2 weeks' notice, man. It's
Man, that
crazy.
dude that dude was
But
he was cheating in there, huh?
yeah, it was a tough fight, man. But man, Karan had a really good performance against Durrell. And, I thought that we would be able to come back to a better fight. And then to get this kind of call on 2 weeks' notice, in this era, you got to take it because you just sit around and don't fight. It's the
Mm-hmm.
weirdest thing, man. So, I chose for him to be active. It's a little frustrating, but he should have did better. But I put this one on me. But I just didn't want him sitting around, man. So it was tough. The guy was tough. He showed up. But, glad we got out of there with a W. And hopefully we get a better fight and get back down to his natural weight class, real soon.
So our co-producer Brandon wanted to get you on the show, obviously because of your knowledge and openness to discuss PEDs, and you know, I mean, people are trying to say that we've been here before with the Dillian White situation. Roy Jones came up, and Shane Mosley, but I don't think that these situations are the same. But I would like to know how you feel about Oscar Valdez testing positive both A and B sample, and the commission, the sanctioning body, and am I missing anyone? Everyone is
The
basic.
promoter?
The promoter and everyone. Oh, I guess that's it. Everyone is saying that it's not a PED, even though it's on the banned substance list. Just
All
how
right,
do you feel about that
think
situation?
I think I'm walking to my lift right now, but I'm gonna answer y'all as thorough as I can. Let me see if this is my guy. Brent, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna answer y'all as thorough as I can. Um, First off, what happens is that a lot of people use word trickery, and they'll say, "Well, a diuretic is not a steroid, right?" Well, it doesn't have to be a steroid. It can be a PED. If you get to cut weight and be strong every single day in camp and fight at a really, really uh a lower weight that you can make naturally and you don't get sick in camp, fighters lose their immune system in camp. They Where's it at? Elgin or Walcroft? Yeah. Elgin? Yeah. Hold on 1 second, y'all. City?
Make sure you mute it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, they if you get to go through camp and not have, a lot of people don't know fighters get sick in camp because your immune system goes down because you're cutting so much weight. So
Stress.
you
Too much
minerals,
stress on the immune system. Yeah.
you stressed out, you got it. So they always get sick in camp. You'll always hear about a guy getting a little cold and things like that because it stresses your immune system out. You also hear, which is not right, but like a lesser fighter getting the better of them in sparring because you get weak as you start getting closer to the weight. So if you get that benefit of every day being sharp and strong and alert, that's a PED. You know what I'm saying? If you get to walk around at 160, 165 and make 126 or make, whatever weight Valdez is fighting at 130, I believe it is, and you wouldn't normally be able to do that without using this diuretic, that's a PED. So when I hear all these people changing the words around, like it's not a steroid, it's just a diuretic, I'm like, do y'all realize what you go through in camp? You realize why last night Karan had to fight at 170 and couldn't fight at 160 because we took the fight on 2 weeks' notice. And if you cut weight naturally, it doesn't come off like that. Yeah. So when I hear this, it's really disappointing that some people in boxing really believe that something that's used to cut weight and keep you strong every day throughout camp is not a PED. It's just ridiculous. Him personally, I don't know him, so I can't vouch for him. I guess that sometimes every once in a while you can take something that you don't know what's in it, even though you're responsible for whatever goes in your body. But I think that as we try to find like levels of culpability, like, well, he didn't know it was in his body. At this point, it doesn't matter. If you test positive, you have to be suspended, because it doesn't matter if he knew what he was putting in his body or not. Ness, everybody says they didn't know what they was putting in their body. It's the same excuse. I've never heard a fighter say, you know what, I tried to cheat, y'all got me. Nobody ever says that. Everybody says the same thing over and over again. So, that being said, I mean, you got to suspend him, because even if he didn't know what was in his body, he still got the benefit of having it in his body, whether he says he didn't know or not. You know, we don't have to prove intent. It's just black and white. When you start trying to prove intent and things like that, that's when the areas become gray. You know, hopefully that the young man that he's fighting doesn't get hurt. You know, I don't want to get into the promotional companies and all that, because everybody knows that boxing is ran by the money and the dollars, you know, but hopefully the kid don't get hurt really, really bad, because somebody's going to be liable for that. You know, that's all I can really say about that.
I guess the counter argument to that, and I agree with everything you're saying as far as him being punished, he should not be allowed to use the drug, and it does give him an unfair advantage, because he's making the weight unnaturally while his opponent has to make the weight naturally. All that I agree with, but where I think we disagree on respectfully is diuretics are very dangerous, and that's why in bodybuilding, that's the only drug in bodybuilding that is actually illegal. They allow them to take every other drug in the world, but they don't allow them to take diuretics for one reason and one reason only. Because when you're totally dry and depleted, and then you're trying to take a drug that's going to suck more water out of you, it's not going to give you an extra benefit in performance. Now, that's where I think there's a misconception about diuretics. Diuretics are extremely dangerous. Bodybuilders have died from diuretics because they tax their system so much, they cramp, they've taken strokes because of taking diuretics. So my argument, and I think it's a pretty logical argument, is a lot of these drugs are on the banned substance list, not just for performance enhancing purposes, but for danger purposes as well. Diuretics are nothing to play with. They can really hurt somebody. If you're taking a fighter that's already lean, that's already dried out, right? And then you're taking a diuretic on top of that, and you're going to try and deplete him even more. I mean, a depleted athlete is not going to perform at an optimal level, you know. So that's where I think we have a disagreement. I agree with you that
we have a big disagreement about that, my man. We have a huge disagreement about
that because a diuretic is not anabolic. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but a diuretic is not an anabolic substance.
All right, we just disagree, because I know what fighters got to go through to make weight, and if it allows you to lose weight at a faster pace, if it allows you to lose weight at a unnatural pace, and if it allows you to recover quicker,
that's where we disagree. That's where we disagree.
Okay, well, we disagree. Well, how about this? Why do you think these guys keep getting popped for diuretics? Because it's not making
because they're honestly, can I tell you why? Because you know as well as I do, a fighter will do anything to make weight, even compromise his health. Is that a fair statement?
Not in this case, because I'm going to tell you why. Because some of these guys at the top level, man, they got really, really good people around them where if they're cheating, they're microdosing, and you're doing it at a way where they know exactly how to beat the system. They know exactly what to do. They know exactly what to put in their body. And these guys got chemists around them. They are not doing this to make them weak. They're doing this to make them strong. It's certain things I just can't even say publicly, but you're more than wrong, my man. You have no idea some of the stuff that I've seen. You are so wrong.
But a diuretic is not one of those drugs I think gives a fighter an advantage.
But there are diuretics out here that allow you to cut weight unnaturally and recover quickly after the grueling workouts day in and day out.
That would be a fat burner. That would not. There's some drugs that are fat burners that will allow you to maintain lean muscle mass. Phetamine actually eats away at your muscle mass. It's not good to preserve. It's not a drug that you would take that's going to preserve lean muscle mass. So I agree with you. These drugs are giving these guys an unfair advantage in making weight. But you know as well as I do, just because a fighter makes weight, that doesn't mean he's going to perform optimally. That's the case.
You're being a wordsmith.
I'm just giving you the science. Giving you the science.
No, you're being a wordsmith because here's why you're being a wordsmith. I'm gonna tell you two reasons. Because you don't know if that's the only thing he was taking. A lot of times these guys combine PEDs. That's because the only one he got popped for, that don't mean that's the only thing he was taking, my man. So you're being a wordsmith. And here's the second thing. If you can be a naturally bigger human being and make an unnaturally low weight and then have over 24 hours to rehydrate your body and to go in the ring and at least get back to maybe 90% of what you were.
Won't get back to 90%. Won't get back to 90%. Not in 24 hours. Not in 24 hours. Mr. Edwards, let me ask you a question. Let's just be totally frank here.
It's more than 24 hours. You got about
36 hours. Even that, you need a good 72 hours to almost to 5 days. But let me just say this: if you were to lose 25 pounds right now, if you were to lose 20,
the fighter after weigh-in.
Excuse me.
Do you have any fighters that you rehydrated after weigh-ins?
No, but I've actually been to weigh-ins and seen fighters faint at weigh-ins though because they were so depleted.
Well, let me just tell you this.
That we're taking diuretics, actually.
When a fighter makes weight, right, he's grouchy, he's upset, his response time is really, really low. Everything about him is really dead, right? And that next day, you think you're looking at a different person. And it's just naturally with salt water and different glucose and different things for his blood that make him feel better. So you're just off, man. You know about what you could do in 36 hours. It's a lot you could do in 36 hours. I'm not saying that every single fighter gets it back every single time because nothing is 100%. But the same guys that know how to microdose these guys and cycle them through, they know how to bring them back. They know how to to get a guy the best they can be in the next 36 hours by putting saline solutions in them and different things like that. You're just wrong about this, man. That dude, I don't want to say this, but you're just wrong. And I'm not going to be pointing the finger at Oscar Valdez because it's way more than him.
Let me change the gears a little bit to this because I feel like Mauricio Suleiman is somebody that I respect. I mean, he sponsored my events, you know. He's one of the few sanctioning body presidents that really gives the media time to answer the tough questions that they have for him. But I feel like he dropped the ball. His excuse or response should have been vetted through some sort of public relations. He compared it to 3 Red Bulls. He said what Oscar Valdez had in his system is no different than him taking 3 Red Bulls. What do you feel about that?
I didn't even hear that excuse. I mean, listen, I'm just going to say it in black and white. If it's on the list and you haven't notified BADA, then you have to be punished. I had guys under BADA, and if they take something or you think that they're taking something that's like maybe suspect, all you do is call or you go on the website and just punch it in. It's not a hard thing to do. You can you can email Margaret Goodman. That can be your receipt and say, hey, Dr. Goodman, should I take this? Is this okay? And she'll say yes or no. So Red Bulls aren't on the list. So I don't want to have any type of say anything about Mauricio Suleiman, but that's just not correct. Like, it's not. It's either on the list or it's not. And when you become wordsmith and you keep, throwing misdirection and all that kind of stuff, it's just not fair. And it's really not fair to the kid's opponent. You know, we had a young lady that died last week. You know, when people want to make light of this, there's nothing funny about this, man. But a Red Bull and whatever this stuff is just not the same. Or the Red Bull will be on the list.
And is
You
it
know,
is it the job of the commission? Because New York allowed, obviously, Eric Morales to fight Danny, but there was a fine. He had to pay Danny, and at least Danny was notified. In this instance, the opponent didn't know. He found out through the media, and yeah, I mean, you know, there's no fine. Again, he's been given he's been given community service. In my opinion, according to the report, he's got to do 6 appearances with the WBC. You know, sign some autographs and, you know, do some stuff, some ambassador stuff.
you know what? I was there when that happened with Eric Morales, actually, and if I'm not mistaken, Danny chose to fight.
Yeah.
You know, his dad, you know, him and his mom and
The
dad,
mother
you know,
made the decision.
They made the decision. It was ultimately up to them. But I was there that night. But the one thing I'll say about that, Ness, that happened in 2012. So that's 9 years ago. So we're way more advanced in this time now where we know how to handle it. You know, it was fairly new at that particular time. VADA had just started testing athletes. So it was a little bit different. Me personally, I don't think you should leave it up to the fighters. I think that there should be a higher ruling from a commission, and then you got to live with it, because when the judgment can get skewed when it comes down to the fighters because they're getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I know a lot of fighters that they're like, man, I don't care. I got to get paid. I got to pay my bills. So if you leave it up to too many different people, it's never going to work. You know, I think that the ruling has to come from higher up. And whatever the ruling is, you have to be able to live with it. But you definitely don't leave it to the fighters, because every fighter's going to want to fight after they've been through camp and they incurred all those expenses in camp. You know, nobody's going to just, you know, most times this stuff happens, you know, the guys who can afford VADA, you know, they're making career high paydays. Nobody's going to turn it down. So, you know, unfortunately for this kid that he's fighting, he's not going to turn that money down. He's going to want to fight. And you can't blame him. That's what makes him a fighter. Mm-hmm. So, you know, now somebody's liable for his health. You know, so we'll see.
Plus the phentermine is actually not obtainable in the United States without a prescription. So I don't know if he got that in Mexico where they don't need a prescription for the drug. So that
he lives in Mexico.
Yeah, so that's probably why. But in the United States, you actually need a prescription for that drug. They prescribe it to obese people. Phentermine.
Mr. Edwards, so, man, I'm losing my train of thought. Okay, so I wanted to say, how far off are we from making testing in boxing very similar to a DUI? You know, obviously my rules are so harsh, you know, when I thought about this, but like, you know, when you get caught driving under the influence, they immediately suspend your license. And you have a suspension time. You have a suspension time where you can't even drive a vehicle. Should that be the same case for the fighter? Like, if you're on this, if you tested positive for something on the banned substance list, should a fighter's boxer's license be suspended so that he could be deprived from fighting, so that the lesson could be learned, because you're affecting the fighter's pocket?
Yes, I agree. And it has to be, I got to add this, at the top level, your average turnaround time between fights is every 6 months, right?
Yeah.
So if you suspend a fighter for 6 months, you're really not doing nothing to him.
Mm-hmm.
Should be a year minimum, I think. Should be a year minimum.
Think about it. It has to be longer.
Yeah.
Because you're not doing anything, because everybody fights twice a year now. Some guys only fight once a year, once every 8 or 9 months. Yeah. So you're not doing nothing to them if you suspend them for 6 months. It has to be longer than that. So I agree with you, but it has to, the consequences have to have teeth. You know what I mean? It has to have teeth. It can't just be something that's worth the try. Like, man, if I get away with this, I'm gonna get to a $2 or $3 million payday. You know, I see fans on Twitter all the time. They throw numbers around and they swear they know what fighters are making, and they really don't. Only 1% of the fighters in the history of boxing have ever made 7-figure paydays. That's a fact. You know, they throw that stuff around like it's just so common, like everybody makes it. So you can have guys that are at the intermediate level and they have some financial backing and they got people behind them and they can do PEDs all the way up without even being tested. You know what I'm saying? It makes it worth it. And then you get to the point where you're getting the championship fights. It doesn't even matter to you whether you win or lose because you hit the lottery and you already got there. You know what I'm saying? So these suspensions have to be real. They can't be, you know, a couple of months, 6 months and all that kind of stuff. They can't be because you don't deter anybody from using it. And then you got to understand something. It's not like we in the sport where we have the highest moral compass, you know. And I'm in the sport. I'm a trainer. But like this is a brutal sport. You think these guys are going to say, oh man, my opponent is doing it, so let me be clean? You know what I'm saying? Then you have that factor of if everybody else is doing it, I may as well do it, which is a huge factor once you factor that in. So it's so much stuff, man. You know, honestly, man, it's so much stuff that is really hard to talk about too much publicly, but I just do it because I know for a fact that nobody could ever say to me, whether I'm with a fighter or not, that I ever gave anybody any PEDs. So I don't have any skeletons in my closet where, you know, you got to watch the people who can talk about this kind of stuff. I don't have any skeletons in my closet where somebody could say, well, you gave your guy PEDs or you had a guy that tested. I don't have them kind of skeletons in my closet. I'm not perfect, but I've never cheated in boxing. So, you know, I could talk about it freely because I know what I've done and I know what I didn't do.
So let me ask you though, are you fearful that you may give a fighter something that'll have them test positive? Because you know, the number one excuse is, you know, I ate something, I digested something.
Supplements too. You got to be careful with the supplements too.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I remember, you know, with the Roy Jones situation, I think he had an over-the-counter supplement. If I'm not
ripped fuel. It was ripped fuel.
Yeah, ripped fuel.
Those stimulants in there. Yeah.
Yeah,
they mix shit in there.
At GNC, right?
Yeah.
And I think his opponent actually also tested positive for that fight, if my memory serves me correctly. So sometimes, guys, that can happen, but it's very rare. You know what I mean? It's a very rare thing. But when these things happen, here's the thing. The lines of communication with VADA is open. So if you take something that you're not sure about or is new, it's a simple phone call or email. Margaret Goodman, you can talk to her. You know what I mean? So we know that's the whole point that I'm trying to make is it's not that hard to communicate with the people at VADA. To answer you directly, Ness, I'm really not scared that I'm going to give a guy something because if a guy inadvertently takes something, here's the thing. You should be able to tell where you got it from.
Exactly.
Some of these excuses, I watch the media and it's frustrating to me because nobody asks these guys the real good question.
Exactly.
Where and who did you get it from?
Exactly.
If you didn't know what this stuff was, tell us who you got it from, how much you got, and what's this person's credentials, and what part of their team do they play. If you ate something at a restaurant, take us to this restaurant. If you ate a wild boar, where were these boars at? Where did you eat them, man? How much did you eat? You got to get, the devil is in detail. You have to be specific when you asking somebody something. And an innocent person is transparent. They're going to be like, man, you know, Ness gave it to me off of, I pop one or whoever. Nobody's going to give me something to ruin my career unknowingly. And I don't say that person gave it to me. That's not being a snitch.
Yeah.
Being a snitch is if you do something with somebody and you know that is wrong and you get caught and then you tell on that person. That's being a snitch. But if somebody gives you something that you didn't know and you got to walk around with this label and this moniker for the rest of your career, you're not going to just take that heat for them. You're going to tell where you got it from. So nobody ever tells where they get this stuff from, and nobody's ever made to question this. It's the weirdest thing. I look and I'm like, damn, how come nobody ever says,
because I want to know where to get the tea at, man. I want to know where to get the tea.
Those supplement bottles have a lot number at the bottom, on the bottom of them, and they have a SKU number and everything, so they can be traced to where they came from, the batch they came from, and everything. So if there was a bad batch, they could trace it.
You know what? And that's one of the reasons why, I don't clump everybody into the same category. And Roy Jones is one of my favorite fighters, but I tend to believe him because he had a credible excuse of where he got it from. He said, I use Rip Fuel, and then Rip Fuel was tested and it showed to have that in it. So
just like
okay,
Brandon Rios too. Brandon Rios, he popped with the Pacquiao fight for Jack 3D, and that was testing up positive for people for methamphetamines.
Yeah. It was just like back in the day in the 90s, they had the Pro Homer on 1AD, and they were actually putting trace amounts of Trenbolone in that. So I mean, it happens. Let me ask you a very important question there. So if you have a fighter and his opponent tests positive, and the commission's going to allow him to fight, and it's a big money fight, do you advise your fighter to go through with that fight, or do you advise him to pull out? What would be your advice in that situation?
You know what, man? That's probably the hardest question I've ever been asked.
That's why I had to ask it.
Man,
it's gonna end, and ultimately is the fighter's decision, though.
You know what? I had a fighter. I want to get in specific. I had a fighter. We had a fight, and there was no testing for the fight, and we just couldn't get testing. I still don't know why. And that fighter said, "Fuck it, I gotta fight." And I said, "You sure?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay." That was just that. I've never had anybody test positive on one of my guys. I had a fight where we were in the clean testing program. We tested, because I would call up Market all the time and be like, we can't afford VADA to pay for VADA, because paid VADA in the clean testing program is totally different.
The real VADA is expensive as fuck, yeah.
We're in the clean testing pool. Can you please test us? And I was hoping they would test their opponent, because I know my guys is clean. And they tested us like 3 times, and the opponent never got tested. My guy was a little mad at me, but I did the best I could for what I had. You know what I mean? I didn't have the money to pay. Damn, my man. I don't really know. I don't really know the answer to that question, because it's so many variables, but I'm going to answer it as honest as I can. If I believe my guy could still beat the guy, I probably would tell him to fight. If it was a close fight and I believe that the guy had the edge, I wouldn't do it, because I'm going to keep it real. I've taken fights where I suspected guys before. It's part of the game. I've seen guys come up and be like, damn, I know that guy ain't right, and we still got to fight him. It's part of the game. And you only can test when you're making high into the 6 figures. Don't let nobody tell you no different. These guys is not paying for VADA if they're making 75 grand or 100 grand. You eating up too much of your check. Yeah. So the real answer is that if I thought my guy could win the fight, I would take it. If I didn't, if I thought it was too close, if it was a 50-50 fight and I thought the guy had the edge, I would tell my guy to pull out, because I want to win more. I like winning more than I like money. So winning is always my number one priority in boxing. But a fighter will overrule you, man. Yeah. Most times it's going to be up to the fighter. But if it was up to me, it depends on how competitive the fight is.
Yeah, and also I think it would be factoring in. You're gonna say to yourself, do I want to be responsible for if this fighter gets hurt? That's going to be on in my head, on my shoulders. So that's something that you may have to walk away carrying with you, possibly. I don't want to get inside. Yeah, I don't want
That's
to get
all.
inside your head with that, but that's a
No,
possibility, right?
it's always an issue. I don't even like talking about fatalities in the ring around fighters. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? You'd be
yeah.
surprised at things that could creep into a fighter's mindset. You really would. You'd be surprised. I don't even talk about that kind of stuff in front of fighters. So it's always on your mind. I can't train a fighter that I don't care about.
He went through that
Yeah,
dead
he's frozen.
zone. All the way lost him.
He's bad.
Well, there he goes.
Um, because you got to be able to throw that talent. You got to be able to tell them like, hey, champ, it's not our day today. You know what I'm saying? And if I don't care about a kid and have a genuine love for him, it was, it becomes harder for me to do that. So I got to care about a fighter to train them. They say, don't get too close to a fighter. I don't believe in that. I want to have a certain kind of relationship with a fighter where he respects my opinion and I'll be able to tell him certain things, man, because the stuff that these fighters go through, the tears that first of all, you got to be a different kind of person to take punches to the head for a living. You got to be a little bit different. Your mindset has to be a little bit different. So some of the things that these guys go through in their youth to make them fighters, is sometimes just a harsh reality, and you got a lot of abuse issues and things like that. So, I got to care about a fighter. So even if PEDs is not involved, I got to be able to do certain things to protect kids, man. 'Cause this is a dangerous sport, man. I can't even look at that girl. Everybody keeps flashing their face on Twitter. I can't even look at the girl's face, man. That kind of stuff makes me sick. So maybe that's why I'm so outspoken about PEDs, because you're not hitting baseballs, you're hitting human heads, man. It's a serious thing.
Yeah, man. Well, Mr. Edwards, I want to thank you obviously for coming on. If you want, can you please give out your social media? If anybody isn't following you, can do so. And yeah, man. Anything? What's up with You got Zachary Ochoa, right?
Yeah, man. I'm trying to get in fights. Now it's just crazy, man. In this climate, man, it's no activity. I'm
Yeah.
trying to get the kid a fight. Good looking kid out of Brooklyn, man. So hopefully we get a fight. He's moving down to lightweight. So hopefully he gets a fight pretty soon.
All right. Anything else you got cooking?
I got the kid Cassius Chaney from
Oh, that's right. I forgot he made the switch to you. Cause he was
yeah,
out there out here. I moved to Florida. He was out here with Herman Caicedo.
yeah, he's doing pretty good. He just won. I got Karan. Obviously, Karan. I have a kid, Romeo Cruz. He fights at 122.
You know
He's
Coach
fought
O, right?
Coach who?
Coach O, Kasha Elliott's father.
No, I don't know him.
Oh man, damn.
Yeah, I don't know him. And I got somebody cooking. I can't really speak on it now, but I got a elite level guy cooking. We should be able to talk about it in the next couple of weeks. But I don't keep a big stable, man, because it's not really enough hours in a day to train, more than 4 or 5 guys. You
Wait,
got to
so
give them
like
all.
elite level former champion or contender?
Elite level former world champion. And so I got something cooking with that. So we'll see about that pretty soon. And that's it, man. I don't have a big stable. I don't take more than 4 or 5 guys. Once I get to 5 guys, that's it for me. Because everybody, fighters are like children. They want that undivided attention.
Yeah, man.
And if 2 hours a day, man, if you got 10 guys, I mean, when you gonna sleep? So I try to
So
keep
what
my
weight
stable
class
down.
is this elite level fighter?
I knew he was going to say that, Nick. Now you're going to probably ask you what color hair does he got? What color is his? What color is his eyes?
Hey, Nets, I can't do that, champ.
See how he does it? You
can't
leave
do
him
that.
on it. He's going to keep going at you with it.
Can't do that, Nets.
Where does he hang out? What gym does he train at?
Can't do that, man. But it's
This is like,
you know how boxing is, man. Everything is fluid, man. I don't want to speak on things too soon. but hopefully
But
it
what's the
works out.
timeline?
And
What's the timeline on an announcement?
what's not gonna be an announcement, man? I'm a humble guy. I'm not gonna
It's
make an
gonna
announcement.
happen. It's gonna be
Y'all just gonna see
organic.
me up in the corner,
Man, I need a
and that's just
text,
gonna be
man.
that. I'm not making no announcements. If he want to make an announcement or promotional, want to make. I didn't tell nobody I was chaining cashes. Next thing I know, I saw a press release from Main Event saying it. I
He
don't
told
do
me
that.
too. He told me. I just forgot. He told me though. But
Yeah,
but
he's a good kid, man. Hopefully
he
he can
is.
get some good opportunities at heavyweight.
Yeah, man. He's undefeated, man. He's what 21-0 now, right?
21-0, man. If he could get in world class condition, he got a chance. You know, I like him a lot. He got
What? Wait a minute. So
really
you don't
good.
think he was already conditioned? Oh man, he gonna get
Uh,
distance.
not
Not like you like.
not like I like. I'm not saying nothing about none of his old coaches because I don't know anything that they was doing. But the level of conditioning that I'm talking about, he wasn't there yet. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So if he conditioning up, Cassius is going to be a problem, you know. But conditioning the heavyweight is a little different than conditioning guys in other weights. So that's something that I got to get used to too, because it takes them a little longer because they're moving around more mass.
Yeah.
So I'm learning his body and he's learning my ways too. But I love training him, man. He's a very nice kid. He's very respectful. He's never late for the gym, so that's a plus.
But speaking of getting to like, know new things because he's a heavyweight. How'd you make the decision? Because I'm sure you've never been in a gym with heavyweights, so finding sparring for him isn't the same as picking up your phone for some of your other guys who have been in and around that same, let's say, 140 to 160, you know.
Well, that's a good question. And that's because I usually like to take guys that are around the same weight, so you can have the in-house sparring. So you're exactly right. Like I could remember when Karan Davis, his dad, reached out to me to train him. I had no problem training him because he was only one weight division up from Julian Williams at the time. You know what I mean? So it made sense. I'm like, we got in-house sparring. With a heavyweight, it's a little bit different because I don't have any heavyweights. But I know a lot of trainers and I know a lot of people. So I just, do my best with my resources. And as the money goes up, you get to pay people. So that's always easier too. But we get them sparring. Philadelphia is a rough place, man. So it's not like people won't spar. People will spar. So he gets sparring, and like I said, as the money go up, we'll have better camps where we can fly guys in and lodge them and get them the adequate sparring. But he was able to get some quality sparring here in Philly, believe it or not.
And now because you're established at this point, do you not travel because you're like based out of Philly, or like with a guy for Cassius, would you go, I don't know, somewhere else to get that sparring?
You know what? That's another good question. I just bought a building, man. It's like
Oh
an old
wow.
bank. And I'm gonna turn it into just like 7,500 square feet. I haven't started working on it yet, but I did acquire the building. So once this building is up and running, I probably won't be going out. But I don't want to be prideful and put my ego in it. I would rather the fighter come to me because my resources is here in Philly, but I'm not opposed to traveling. I've done it several times. And I'll have no problem getting on the plane and going somewhere as long as the accommodations is right. For the Jarrett Hurd fight, man, I slept in the crack infested hotel. Literally, it was hookers and everything outside. Couldn't sleep or nothing for 3 weeks.
A lot of
So
talent out there. A lot of talent.
A
say
lot
that
of
again.
talent.
A lot of talent in that hotel.
It was
Good
unbelievable.
rates.
It was this hotel in Haywood, California, man. It was unbelievable. The shit that you hear in the middle of the
Yeah,
night,
let
and
me know next time. I'll come down with you, man.
we're on a 3 hour time difference. So I'm up in the middle of the night, man, and it's just like, so I am willing to do what I have to do to win, but honestly, at this point in my career, I would rather not be in somebody's hotel for 8 weeks at a time away from my family. But you got to do what you got to do for the right fighter and the right price. Yeah, I'll do it. You know what I mean? And right, obviously everything has a, everything is worth compromising if it's the right situation. You know what I mean? So it depends on the fight.
This is live, so people saying, yo, ask him if it's Tony Harrison.
Tony's my boy. No, I'm not answering that right now. No, but I do that.
Wow, maybe Tony. Maybe
Hey,
Tony.
I said that, not me. I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Watch Ness. Ness gonna be doing a video next week about it now.
I know, right? And then somebody put
a question mark. Is Breadman training Tony Harrison?
Yeah, right.
When you travel with the guys, like guys from different promotional companies, you get cool with them, because we fight on the same shows.
Oh, so you telling us it's someone completely out the box? I like that hint.
No, here's what I'm telling you. Listen to what I'm telling you, Ness, because I know what you're trying to do, but I'm trying to tell you something. People probably see me and Tony interact on social media, right? Because he's with PBC. I got fighters with PBC. We all like talk and be on the same shows, and you be in the lobby and, eating wings or whatever. You see each other all the time. So you get cool like that. But that doesn't mean I'm training him. I'm just cool with Tony because he's been with PBC for a few years. I've been with Al Heyman for 9 years. Julian signed with him in 2012, and I brought other guys over to him. So what I'm saying is that sometimes, people might see me and him interact on social media, but that doesn't mean I'm training him. I just think he's a real cool kid, and I like him, But I'm not answering who I'm training, so y'all could try to do that all y'all want.
But to be clear, it's not a PBC guy.
I didn't say that, Ness. You saying that.
I'm fishing.
I didn't say that.
Nah, man.
Ex-world champion. That's it.
Nah, I hear you. But listen, Brad, man, thank you for your time. We appreciate it. Please give out your social media, and we got to do this again.
Yes, sir. It's Breadman Boxing on Twitter. See you guys later. Good talking to you guys.
Thank you. Thank you for the time, Coach.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Breadman Boxing. That was.
If you want to support us to the next level, head over to the patreon.com/ThaBoxingVoice. We have tons of exclusive from Border Wars, Untitled, betting shows. The list goes on and on and on. But in addition to that, if you guys have questions for fighters, trainers, and promoters, this is where you can submit them. We will run out, get these questions answered, and put it back on the show just for you guys. Appreciate it. Peace.